is February 18th, 2016, and as you can see, we are on the edge of a woodlot.
And today we're going to be seeing a different way of cutting wood, a more traditional way, with different kinds of equipment than is being used today, and very few loggers that are still in the business. And here with us we have your name?
I'm Jody Spires.
You're Jody Spires. And where do you come from, Jody? Where do you live?
I was originated from Sharpening area. My mom was born up here, so I moved up here about 15 years ago.
And so you cut wood.
I cut wood. I'm a farmer slash woodcutter.
Oh, so you run a farm as well?
I run a farm as well.
Is it a dairy or
no,
beef?
No, I've got about 60 head of beef cows here in New Canada.
In New Canada. Now, do you work? Are you self-employed, or do you?
I am self-employed. I sell my wood, and I'm kind of a contractor under Paul Lozier.
Oh, Paul Lozier. I know one of the contractors in Soldier Pond. You're kind of a general contractor. So you work under Paul.
Yes, I work under Paul.
Now, do you specialize in some kind of cutting? Do you work just small wood lots, or do you
work small wood lots, big wood lots? It really don't matter. We like places that the big feller bunchers can't really get into, and this kind of wood harvesting that I'm doing is kind of a specialty. It does a lot of low impact. It does not it does not really harm the forest. We try to go in and take the bigger trees out, leave the smaller ones, and if this is done and done properly, within 10 years you can come back here and harvest this wood again.
So there's really some advantages to the landowner. There's
a lot of advantages. My little machine is small, it's light. We don't destroy the whole forest. There's places for big machines and there's places for little machines, and a lot of the farmers and a lot of these small lots, they love this little skidders to get in here and cut them, and like I said, 10 years you can come right back and cut again.
Now this you're talking about the machine. What is this machine?
This is a 1980 Timberjack 225E.
It looks like an oversized four-wheeler.
It's an oversized four-wheeler. Yeah, it's what they consider a cable skidder. There's very far and few of these left. Most of these all went to the junk man.
Really, they were common at one time.
At one time, there was one of these on every street corner, and about every 3 houses there was one parked in the back of it during the mud season.
That's right.
And due to greed and insurance purposes and whatever, nowadays they're pretty much a thing of the past.
A thing of the past. Yeah, I know you're one of the very few. As a matter of fact, I only know of 2 in this whole area.
I believe there is 7 of us between Allagash and here, and really? I'm one of the few full-timers.
Now, how did you get going anyway in the lumber business? Was this a family tradition, or?
Well, kind of, sort of. My father was a welder and a mechanic, and he worked on machines like this every day of his life, and I seen that. He was self-employed, and I would be around these machines. My grandfather run bulldozer, and he cut wood, and he'd done this, and it was kind of a, yes, it was kind of a family tradition. And back in '89, when I graduated high school, like I said, there was one of these on every street corner, and I just thought it was the coolest thing to watch them cut trees. Sure. And to be able to run one of these machines. And back in the day, if you wanted a job, there was a job on every street corner for one of these.
A lot of it, I'm sure. Now, do you do both? Do you operate the skidder as well as cut the trees?
I'm a one-man band here.
One-man band.
Yeah, I take my saw, I cut the trees, I limb it, I yard it, I do everything. I do everything that, normally you have a feller buncher, you have a skidder, and you have a delimber. Well, between me and my old orange machine here, we do it all.
You do. Now, how about the mechanics for this machine? Do you do all the work on it yourself? I'm assuming they're mechanical.
All my own work. That's one of the advantages of being brought up the way I was, with my father being a mechanic and a welder. I take care of my own breakdowns, and it's very difficult today because, like, I'm having trouble with this machine, and there's no more of these old timers around that can really tell you, give you any advice. Like I said, these things are dinosaurs. It's almost impossible to find parts for these things nowadays.
I was going to say, how do you get your parts?
Well, there's a couple places where you can you can still order them on the internet.
Okay.
There are a few outfits around that have junkyards for these machines, but like I said, it's getting harder every day.
They're getting harder. My God. So today you're here on a small landowner's woodlot, and you're targeting. Are you targeting certain trees, or are you a certain type of tree?
Right now we're kind of cutting a little bit of everything. Select cut. This lot was cut about 25 years ago, and you know, this is very poor soil in this ground, but we're trying to thin it so it will regrow faster and come back to where it should be.
Yes.
People don't understand, but when you harvest wood, it's a necessity. It's no different than harvesting, you know, or weeding your garden. You know, it's something that must be done. You must take the weeds out to have the nice trees grow into a profitable forest.
Yeah, right. And I'm assuming in this case, I mean, you're cutting out the wood that's either too old, I mean, that's done maturity and is shading out all the others.
Correct. And right where we are, there's a spot there that hasn't been touched. It's an old field where we're going to be cutting there, and it's grown up, and it's grown up in trees that they're not maturing because it's too thick in there. So like I said, we're trying to weed that out like a garden. We're targeting mostly the fir at the moment. The wood market really stinks. The price of wood is rock bottom right now, but we're concerned about spruce budworm. Spruce budworm is coming back. It makes about a 15-20 year cycle. Yep. It's coming back. This summer it's going to hit us hard. We're almost sure of it. And what the spruce budworm does, it's called spruce budworm, but they really don't touch the spruce. The spruce budworm hits the fir, and it destroys the fir. I mean, they eat all the limbs off all the little needles off the fir tree, and it kills it. And then you take a tree that's worth, you know, $25, ain't going to be worth 5 cents.
Really? Yeah, because there was a big move. Oh, must have been 30 or 40 years ago. There was a big. The big outbreak of spruce budworm in this northern Maine area, and I remember that. I mean, everybody was harvesting the trees as fast as they could. The lumber companies were just, I mean, they had no choice. It was either that or they're just going to lay there and rot.
Correct. And and right now, like I said, we have this facing us. This past summer, we've seen a little bit of spruce budworm here. But it's getting to the point where it's really getting, it's going to hit us hard again in the next year or two, and when it does, you know, we're ruining a lot of trees.
Now this machine, I can't help but notice the size of the tires on this thing, and then you've got, looks like a set of chains on it. Is there a reason for the chains and the huge tires?
Well, actually, Don, these are very small tires. You're chained up pretty hard here, but they really, by rights, they recommend that you're not supposed to have chains on a skidder, but I find it up here in northern Maine pretty useless with the snow and the mud. If you don't have the chains on them, you pretty much can't go anywhere.
And I'm sure the chains also protect the tires themselves.
They
I mean, I can see you. I mean, you're going over stumps and trees and things that you don't really see, rocks, and cutting a tire like this is probably a hazard of the job.
Yes, yeah, you know, it does. Them tires are forestry specials. They've got steel and Kevlar in them. You know, the chains do help and protect the. You know, right now there I can show you, if I really look hard there, I can find some branches that have been stuck right in them tires and broke off.
Wow.
And they don't go flat. Very often do you have a flat on them.
Now, Jody, we're looking at the back end of the skidder, and it looks like a mess of lines and wires. Now, tell me, what is this?
Well, she is a tangled mess, Don, and it always is. You know, this is what they call your butt plate. You know, you got your winch cable. This is bearings up here that roll. You know, you got these are your slings. These are your chokers. You take your choker. Well, nowadays everything is grapple skidders. Well, this is your grapple. You have to wrap this around a tree.
Oh, you wrap it around. Oh, so this really.
And you have a, you know, this is your ball, and this is your clevis here.
Sure.
And they lock together. Now you have that tree.
Oh, so you put it in there, and then you can drag the tree. Yep. So really, this machine is used to dragging the tree out of the woods.
Correct. And what's nice about this is I've got 65 feet of cable on here. If I want to go out and grab a tree way out there without damaging any of the surrounding trees, I can leave my skidder right here, take this cable, go over there 65 feet and grab that tree and bring it over here without doing any impact to that forest at all.
I mean, it makes sense. Now, how many trees can you bring at one time? I mean, can you haul? Is that...
Well, normally with this machine here, you can bring out a cord and a half of wood with that, and that's depending on, it could be, you know, 1 tree, or it could be 20 trees to make that cord with, you know, with a small machine like this.
Sure.
Depending on the size of the wood. You know, my dad always said, go light, go often. You know, I normally come out with, you know, 3/4 of a cord, you know, a little under a cord of wood every trip, because I don't want to hurt my old machine.
That's right. But it makes, I mean, it makes sense. But it looks like you've got, how many trees could you potentially bring? It looks like you've got quite a few.
12 chokers on here
12
now.
chokers.
When I first bought this machine, I had 18 on here, and I took them all off because it's just steady, a tangled weeb of mess here. It looks like a big spider web trying to untangle that all the time. But I don't need, for what I cut, I don't need any more than that for chokers, and half the time I don't use them all.
No, I can see. I mean, if you get a large tree, and I don't know how many cords of wood are in a tree.
Well, you could take, you know, some trees, you know, some of these big popple, you know, there's a cord of wood in it, and there's other times that, you know, it takes 15, 20 of these little small trees to make a cord.
To make a cord of wood.
You know, it all depends on you know, on where you're cutting and you know, what you have for wood.
Well, thank you, Jody. Maybe we can go on the job site now, and because I'm assuming this is half of the equipment. The other half that you use is probably a chainsaw.
It's my chainsaw, yep. And we're gonna head back into the woods here, and I've got some spruce and some fir that we're gonna cut us a twitch.
Now, I have one last one, but I noticed that you've got some protective equipment on your hands and on your head.
I've got protective equipment everywhere. This is a very, very, very dangerous job. That's one of the reasons why that there's just fools like me, there's very few of us doing it. You know, I've got, you know, right now I've got my hard hat, my earmuffs. This machine makes a lot of noise. The chainsaw is very noisy when you got that in your hand all day long.
Sure.
You know, my hearing is very bad today, because when I was younger, I thought I was big and tough, and I didn't use that stuff. You know, my gloves, I keep leather gloves because there's a lot of cable spurs that stick out of here that are very painful. Yeah. I have Kevlar pads in my pants, chainsaw proof. My boots are Kevlar boots. I can run a chainsaw across them. I wouldn't recommend it, but it's supposed to stop the saw before it cuts you.
Really? They're that tough?
They're that tough. I have cut myself before, and well, I have cut my clothing, and I did not draw blood. I've been very fortunate. And now, this is a very dangerous job, like I said. You know, this is not a matter of if you're going to get hurt in here. It's a matter of when. Because you will get hurt in here. It's not a, you know, it's not a job for sissies, really. I've been, December 3rd in '96, I got hit by a tree cutting pulp in Shin Pond, down behind Patton, and crushed my pelvis. The tree laid on me from 9:30 in the morning until 5:30 at night before they found me. Whoa. I had hypothermia, kidney failure, and I was paralyzed from the waist down with nerve damage. And you know, this is very, very serious, a very dangerous job.
Yes,
you have to be aware of your surroundings at all times.
You must, because I'm sure the danger comes not only from the saw, but everything in the air. I mean, the tree limbs and trees falling all over the place.
It's steady, it's everything. I mean, you know, you drop a tree on the ground and it might hit that branch, and that branch is going to come up and it's going to slap you. You know, there's so much to think about all the time. And I don't care how careful or how safe you think you are. Like I said, it's not if you get hurt, it's when. You are going to get hurt in here. I mean, everybody that's cut wood have stitches. You know, I mean, that chainsaw just screams. You know, it kicks. You know, we all have been cut. You know, we've all been hit with something. You know, and it's very scary, because 99.9% of the time I'm out here all by myself, and the only lifeline I got is my cell phone on my pocket, and some places it don't work.
No, because I noticed even the skidder itself has all kinds of safety equipment on it. It's all screened in, heavy metal. Very
much caged in, but you know, even then, that machine's got a lot of horsepower, you know, and anything can go through that cage. I mean, that wire cage is there for, you know, more for a warning that something is coming than it is to really protect you.
Wow. Well, good. Well, let's head on out to the job site.
Okay, Don, I'll meet you in there.
Sounds good.
thing to notice about the Skidder trail is the little damage to the ground made by the machine.
Now, Jody, show me the chainsaw. This, we're just watching you trim off some branches here. This is a chainsaw.
Yeah, this is a 562 Husqvarna. It's a professional saw. Turns a little faster. You get a lot more horsepower than some of these little homeowner chainsaws. They're a very expensive little tool. The saw right here is probably $700–800.
But it's a necessity.
It's a necessity.
I mean, if in your line of business,
you know, there's some maintenance to it. You know, it's all I can say is I'd rather have 25 of these than buy one feller buncher or one limmer, because this is it. This is the feller buncher and the limmer right here.
Well, I can see that. I was just watching you trim off some branches here. Now, is there the maintenance on it? Is it sharpening? Because I'm assuming this gets dull.
Yes, sharpening. In the winter time, it ain't bad. I can sharpen probably every 2 days, and the saw will stay sharp.
Okay.
In the summer, you're going to sharpen that 4 or 5 times a day because of the rocks and the gravel. And,
so you're hitting
and the stuff that's in your wood.
You're hitting rocks and.
Well, when you drag your twitch out, you got a limb on there, whatever you have to knock off, and it's always in the mud or in the rocks in the summer.
Sure. That makes, it certainly makes sense. I mean, you're picking up everything in the wintertime. It's just
everything is frozen ice, and it's clean. The other thing with maintenance is once a week I take the chainsaw apart, take an air hose, blow all the sawdust and debris out of it.
Sure.
It's an expense. Like this saw here, probably once a year you'll wear a saw out and have to buy another one.
They're good for a year.
They're good for a year, for the most part.
Okay.
I have 2 saws. So this is my softwood saw, and I have a bigger one that I use for hardwood.
Oh, and there's a difference between both?
More horsepower.
For the hardwoods?
Yeah, the horsepower. You can saw hardwood with this one, but it's a slower job. You're wearing your saw out for nothing. The bigger saw turns a lot slower, but it has a lot more torque, a lot more power.
How about the chain? Is there a difference in chains between a softwood chain?
There's a dozen different chains that you can use out there on the market today. I'm old school. I use the same chain for both.
Okay.
There is a way that you can sharpen your saw. If you sharpen for softwood, you want more of an angle
on
your chain.
An angle on the chain itself.
Yes. For hardwood, you want more of a square chisel. And that's just done by different angles of your file.
Oh, really? So for a softwood, you have more of a.
Can you see this?
Yes.
Chain right here, Don?
Yes.
If you look right here, you can see that my saw is got quite an angle here on this tooth.
Right.
Now, if I was cutting hardwood, my hardwood saw is more. It's not quite straight, but you have more of a straight angle to it.
As opposed to this one here, which has more of an angle to it.
Correct.
Yes.
And that, because your softwood is a lot softer. You don't need that chisel cut so much as you do.
Sure. Well, maybe I know you just finished that one.
This tree is done. I'm gonna go and drop me another one.
Let me ask this: how do you know? And this is probably a question that everybody has in their mind. How do you know which direction the tree's gonna fall?
Well, if you stand at the bottom of a tree and you look up it, you will see that you see which way the tree is leaning. Every tree will fall 3 ways by itself.
Really?
Every tree will fall 3 ways. Your tree is standing straight, kind of leaning, say it's leaning that way just a little bit. Well, you can notch it to fall that way very easily, or you can notch it to fall towards you, or you can drop it the other way without any wedges, without pulling it or whatever. Just the normal lean of that tree, if you can steer it to fall 3 directions.
Sure. Yeah.
You want it to fall the opposite, the other way, well, you need to use a wedge or hook onto it with a skidder, and
Oh, so you'll hook onto the skidder and put a little tension on it while you cut?
either that, or a lot of times I'll notch it. I'll get back on my skidder and I'll use the arch just above this pool where your wind cable comes out, and I'll push the tree wherever I want it.
Ah, okay.
That's one nice thing about working alone like that. You don't have to worry about, the safety of your others around when you have leaning trees.
Oh, I could see this. I mean, you've got branches going and trees falling all over. Now, you talked about notching, and I'm hoping that we're going to see this. How, well, maybe on this.
I'm going to cut this big spruce right here.
Or first of all, show me what the notch is.
Okay.
Okay, so we have this. Looks like this spruce. It looks like about, I'd say, maybe 15 inches in diameter.
Yes, and this tree, Don, is not very valuable. Okay, that's one of the reasons why we're trying to cut this. We're cutting the spruce and the fir out of here. If it would be a valuable spruce, I'd say that probably should be left for a few more years. This is what we call pasture spruce. You get limbs from the ground clear to the top, all dried limbs. This will never amount to be a real good tree.
So now, what do they do with the fir itself?
Well, the spruce and the fir, we'll be cutting this. We have to keep it separate because it dries in different kilns differently when they make 2x4s out of it.
Oh, so they'll make 2x4s out of this?
They'll make 2x4s and 2x6s out of this. But it dries differently, the spruce and the fir, so they want it separate. They don't want it in the same piles anymore. It used to be years ago that all went the same, and when you went to the hardware store and you bought a 2x4, well, one was heavier than the other because one wasn't quite dried out, and that's part of the reason for it. But anyway, we're gonna cut this tree here. One of the first things I do is I look at this tree and I see which way it's leaning. It's leaning right directly towards the camera.
So, needless to say, I'm going to get out of the way here at one point.
Before we cut it, yes, I think that would be very wise. But right now,
so it's leaning my way.
It's leaning your way.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is, it's got quite a few trees there right beside you, Don. So we're not going to drop it that way. We're going to drop it actually. The best place is right on top of where the camera's set.
Up in here, because it looks like an open area.
That's
You've already gone through
behind you.
Okay.
But what we're going to do, now we know which way the tree is going to fall. Yep. Now I'm looking at that tree for any dead debris, any branches that might be broke off up there that's going to come down, hit me on top of the head. And I see nothing, and it looks like it's a good healthy tree. No dead branches. There's no dead branches that I see in surrounding trees, so it's safe to cut.
Okay.
The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to walk around and I'm going to see where am I going to go once I cut this tree.
Oh, you're looking for a way out.
I'm looking for an escape route.
Oh, an escape route.
Because this tree, there are stuff that even these live branches, though there's a few dead ones up there, but not big enough to kill me, but it would still hurt if they hit you on top of the head. So I'm looking for an escape route. I want to know as soon as I cut this tree, before this tree falls, I want to be away from it.
Okay.
I want to be 10, 15 feet away from this tree.
As it's falling, as it starts to fall,
I'm leaving.
You're leaving. Okay.
Because a lot of times, this tree could fall into another tree that could actually rocket chance come back and hit you, or there's so many dangers, so you got to be alert all the time. And when I do cut this tree, I am going to make a cut right here, a third of the way through this tree.
Is it
flat
level?
cut, straight in, level cut.
Level cut, right? 1/3 of the way into the tree. Okay.
I'm going to pull my saw out and I'm going to cut down from here in an angled cut down to the first cut that I made.
Making
not
a wedge.
to make a wedge, but not to exceed the third of that tree.
Oh, so you want to stay.
You want to keep, you keep 2/3 of the tree in the back.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Once that notch, that wedge is out of there, I'm going to go to the back side of the tree. I'm going to make a back cut. I'm going to cut that tree. I'm going to keep my saw headed right towards that notch that we made in the front.
Do you cut it? Because you're cutting it flat when you're coming on the back side?
I cut it flat, sometimes a little bit of an angle up, up above. But that's not really that critical as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
You know, you want to be above your notch on the back side of the tree.
On the back side, you want to be above it.
You don't want to be below it.
Ah, okay.
Okay?
Sure.
You want, then you bring that in, but you want to leave, like on a tree this size here, probably say 14, 15 inch tree, you're going to bring your back cut towards your wedge, above the wedge, but you're going to leave probably an inch and a half, without touching it, of a hinge, it's called, in between the two cuts.
Sure.
With that hinge, that is what's steering this tree.
Oh, really?
That hinge is what steers that tree to be able to make that tree go whichever way you want, by the angle of how much hinge you leave.
Okay.
Now, I can steer that tree by cutting more hinge off this side. I can make that tree go more that way.
Okay. Yep.
So, you know, it's a knack. It's something that, you know, once you cut enough wood, you know, it's easy.
Do it.
You don't
sure.
you do it without even thinking about it.
Sure.
So
Well,
I'm gonna have you step back over here, Don.
Is it, would it be safe up in there?
No, you're gonna be, well, probably over.
Okay, I'm on my way. Yep,
Okay.
yep. A nice big spruce, 15 inches. So as we've seen, he's gonna start making his notch. Whoa! Exactly where you said it would go.
That's how it's supposed to be done, though.
So this is the notch that you did.
This is the notch, and what I did, yeah. Sometimes, you know, you can make it bigger or smaller, depend. You know, it's not rocket science here. You take your notch out of there, and then, like I said, you come up above
the notch.
And now I cut a lot of my hinge off here because the tree was going and it was going to hang up in this other tree.
Right.
And it was leaning hard enough so I could cut a little extra of the hinge.
Yeah.
But you want to leave this hinge.
About an inch or so.
This hinge is critical. You want to leave, like on a tree this size, or you want to leave at least an inch of hinge.
Now this winter we've been fortunate because we don't, well, fortunate run for it, we don't have any snow. I'm assuming now, you cut right to the ground. I mean, there's only about maybe 10 inches of stump left.
Yeah, this is a remarkable winter. I mean, the wood market is really suffering this year, which is really, it's devastating for a guy like me because we could really cut wood and really make a lot of money this year because we don't have no snow. No. On a normal winter, we have to carry a shovel around and shovel the snow around here to get to that, cut that tree.
Well, I'm assuming, you know.
A lot of times you get off the skidder this time of year and we have snow up
to your waist. Now this, I mean, the stump is actually real. How many, what do you estimate the years to be? I know you can count the rings, and actually on this one you can almost see the rings.
Well, you can see the rings. Like this tree here, I would guess that, just by guessing, I'd say this tree right here is probably 35 years old. 35 years old. It's really hard to tell. You know, you have, almost a 1/4 inch of growth on some of these rings here. This tree is growing real quick. I mean, without counting, it'd probably take me 10 minutes to count every ring, tell you exactly, but we do know that this whole land, all this land here was cut 25 years ago. Okay. And now this is old field ground right here. Actually, this is an old pasture that we're in that is grown back with with pasture spruce. It's grown back with these spruce and fir. There's a fair amount of tamarack in here that we're trying to cut for one of the local sawmills. And we're just, like I said, just trying to thin it. We don't want to clear cut nothing. We just want to thin it out so some of these younger, healthier trees can really mature and be worth something another 10, 15, 20 years from now.
Yep. So now that the tree's on the ground, what's your next step with it?
We're going to get the skidder and we're going to hook onto them, and we're going to cut a few more along the way out of here, limit.
Now, do you limb it right here?
A lot of times, well, like this spruce here, it would have to be limbed right here because it's not cold enough today. If it was a real cold day, when everybody's home hugging the wood stove and it's 20 below and they're complaining, I'm smiling because I can come out here and cut this tree and hook onto it with the skidder. And the time I get to my wood pile, there's no limbs left on it.
Oh, really? They just, the cold freezes the branches and they break off?
The frost gets right in them branches and that breaks just like icicles off the side of your house.
Really?
On a day like today, I mean, it's cool today, but it's what, probably 15, 16 degrees somewhere in there.
Yes, it's less than 20.
It's not, them limbs won't break off on the spruce. The fir will still limb pretty good, but the spruce will not.
Oh, good. Well, good. So now you're gonna.
If you don't mind, Don, we'll go back to the skidder.
Yep.
And we'll pick up some wood over there.
Sounds good. Now we're getting the cables outside, so you just drag it out to your tree.
Just manhandle it, grab her and go.
Wrap it around the tree. With a small choker, and that one's ready.
That tree is ready to go to the yard.
Wow. And it is that that one's been already
already
trimmed.
Limbed, all ready to go. So I'm going to winch that tree in, and I'm going to grab it, bring it up to this one.
Okay.
I'm going to cut this one, and then we'll have two in our possessions to head out with.
So this big one here, you're going to try to lay it right next to it?
That's a tamarack. What I'm going to do is put that one right on top of this one. Right on top, but I got to pull this one up first.
Okay.
Now I may have to use the skidder to push that one, to put that one on top of this tree where I want it.
Well, we'll see in a minute. The skidder is just waiting here, ready to go. So now he's going to start the winch. Unfortunately, it got hung up, but that's fine. So if you kept on winching, what would have happened?
I would have took this little tree out that we want to save.
Okay, well, you want to save this one.
This is a nice little young tree.
So now we're going to
What's nice about cable skidder is you can just turn your cables around.
Oh, you can? Okay.
And I can pull that tree out of there without hurting this, if I'm lucky.
Well, we're going to find out. Saving that spruce tree, or that fir tree. Hey, it worked, Jody!
Well, it sure did. Now, Don, I'm going to commit to cutting this tree here. So you might want to stand back a little bit.
I will.
Give it up.
So now he's going for that big tamarack tree. It's supposed to fall right on the other one. Jody is now cutting the knot. He got his knot cut, and now he's going for the back. That tree is at least 20 inches on the stump. Now he's going to attach is attached to a cable to the tree, and I'm assuming he's going to try to so he's pushing the tree with the skidder. And you can see the tree starting to lean exactly in the direction that Jody said it would. So now he's put some pressure against it. Probably just a little finishing touch with a chainsaw. The tree is wedged in a lot of different trees. He's cut this tree a little more, but now, oh, there it goes. Look at this. Fell right next to the other one. This is what professional logging is all about. So now he's tied his trees together, and off he goes with the two trees. Incredible. One small tree got in the way here, so now Jody's gonna salvage it. You can see why there's so much protective equipment that is worn in this kind of operation. He's almost at the end of the tree right now. Cutting it to length. Now the branches will stay here on the ground, will rot, decay, and provide more nutrients for these other trees. Well, that was exactly what you predicted. The tree fell right where it was supposed to, right on top of the other. And that was very good. That's pretty good of how you moved it with the with kind of the boom of the winch.
Yeah, a lot of times the trees don't lean where you want them to, so you know they need a little persuasion.
Well, that certainly did the trick.
Now this is pretty good sized wood, Don. I don't want to hurt the little machines. Getting late in the day.
Yep.
So I'm going to try to cut this last tree that's standing right here.
So you're going to try that one too?
We're going to take this one too, and we're going to take 3 plus that little one that I knocked over before. We knocked it over, so it's you know, we killed it.
Right.
We might as well pick it up, put it in the wood pile, and send it to the mill.
That's correct.
So you want to step back, I'm going to cut that last one. I'm going to put that one on top of these other 2, and then off we go.
Very good. Making his notch on the tree. This is a big spruce tree. As you can see, the tree is just staying on its hinge. That's the hinge that Jody has left behind. The tree must be wobbling, but it's still standing up on its own. As you can see, Jody has gone through this area and taken a few trees out. This was a field at one time. Now it's growing up in these different trees. But the branches will be left here on the site to decompose and provide nutrients for all the remaining trees in the area. So now he's putting his choker around the tree because he assumes it's going to fall right next to the other ones and it'll be ready to drag away. Getting ready to make his final cut. And that's just cutting the hinge. That's on this tree. The two trees that are on the ground are actually putting pressure on the one that's standing. It's forcing it to lean, and you can tell it's leaning in the right direction. And it did. Fell right next to the other one. All tied up and ready to go. Turn off the branches. So this one did the same, Jody. It fell exactly where you said it was going to fall.
Yeah, unfortunately it took out that little tree that I didn't want it to, but that happens.
Well, it was wedged in between several small trees. I mean, but still, it'll open up a lot of the area around these small trees for the rest to grow.
Yes, yeah. And all the time too, you take this little fir that's right beside me here. When I'm all done, I'm going to walk by the chainsaw as high as I can reach, and I'm going to knock them dead limbs off.
Oh, take the dead branches off.
I can't do it to every tree, but a lot of times I see a nice healthy little tree like that. Take the limbs off that, and that'll help it grow straight and true. and make a lot nicer log at the bottom of it.
So by taking off the dead branches down at the bottom, it's going to force the tree to make a nice log.
Correct.
So in long term, in 20 years from now, there'll be a nice tree here with a good log in it.
In 10 years from now, that tree, because of the sunlight that will be around it, and the one standing beside it, will be 8, 12, 14 inches on the back.
Wow. Yep. Makes sense. So now I'm assuming you're going to drive this out.
I'm going to take these out. I don't have a big quit, but you know, there's probably 3/4 of a cord there with them trees. We're going to take this out, and I'm going to put them on the log, on the yard, and I'm going to log them. And then I'm going to go home.
Sounds good. Well, I'm going to watch you, and I'm going to follow you out of here.
Okay, Don. See you at the yard.
Trees here ready to go to the yard. Outside of this woodlot. As you can see, the snow and the frozen ground makes very, very little damage to the soil. Taking off some of these small knots. With his twitch of woods. Got a few hundred yards to go down this potato field, this old potato field I should say, through the wood to the wood yard, where each tree is going to be cut into its own logs at the right length. Beautiful sunny day. Well, Jody, now that we've got the wood from the trees, actually from the woods out to the pile here, this is what you call a yard? This is the wood yard, yep. This is what you just bring your trees out here, and then what do you do with them here? Well, I bring them out here and I sort them. If I have to log it, I'll put it into log lengths, and this is the yard where the truck will come with a crane and load it and haul it to market. So here you split those up into different species of trees? Correct. Every species of tree has to be sorted out. Like here I got tamarack, I got my popple,
Got my fir pile down there, and on the other side you can't see, but I got a pile of spruce logs, a spruce tree length.
Yeah, because you mentioned that yesterday, that now the vendors or whoever buys the wood wants the fir in one pile and separated from the spruce.
Correct. It's my understanding that the kiln that they dry the lumber in, they want it sorted out, because the spruce or the fir, one will dry faster than the other in the kiln, and they want to keep it separate, because supposedly it makes a difference when the finished product going to the customer.
Now, is there when you cut the logs, now that do you try to maximize the wood in the tree, or does it depend on the customer itself?
It's both, because actually when you're sawing a log, you look at the logs and there's a curl. There's a curl to the wood. The wood is never straight.
Right.
So
you can see
cut your logs, you got to go by what the customer or the vendor wants. But the most part too is you can't cut a 20-foot log out of a tree that's got a big curl in it, like this one right here that we're seeing.
Yes.
So you'd have to cut that to like an 8-footer, and then you go to the next. You might get a 12 out of the next, out of the next log before it comes to the next curl.
So the shape of the tree really determines what you can get out of that tree.
Correct. Yes, it does. Yeah, and it makes it hard, because a lot of times, you don't want a whole truckload of just 8-footers. Very seldom do they want 8s. They most generally want, 12s and 16s and 20-foot logs. And, sometimes it's hard to do. But
right.
you have to do the best you can with what you get to work with.
Now, I noticed you've been carrying this stick around, and I'm assuming it's not a walking stick.
No, this stick is used for several different things. For one, is when the wood buyers want to cheat you, you got some protection to beat them off the yard with. But no, really, this stick is this is my measuring stick.
It's your measuring stick.
It's 4 foot long.
Okay, it's 4 foot.
And I have some electrical tape here, so 8 inches. That's like this particular customer that we're dealing with now. He wants 8 inches of trim. So if I make a log 12 foot, I put down these to get my 12 foot, and then I have my 8-inch trim, because when these logs are not square on the ends of my chainsaw cut, but after they run that through the mill, they want to trim that that board or 2x6 or whatever square. So they want that extra 8 inches of trim to be able to do that.
Sure. I mean, it certainly makes sense, because you're going to have some waste on the end, just where the saws are cutting at both ends.
Correct, and where you made your notch and stuff at the end of your tree, your butt there, you got to get rid of that.
Well, this is now this pile here, you're just going to leave it here until at some point a truck is going to come in to pick it up.
Yes, yeah. Paul Lozier will be in here probably come Monday morning or so here to finish this up. I've got another couple twitches to make a full load of logs here. I've got a load and a half down there that he'll probably be here today to load that up to take that to the mill for me.
He does. Now, where does it go to?
Well, this here is going right here to Fort Kent, to Tardif's mill. If you need any, lumber for rough lumber sawing for whatever reason, or you need to purchase some rough lumber, Tardif's mill right here in Fort Kent. This is where this tamarack is going.
Oh, and this is tamarack here.
This is tamarack.
This is going to Tardif sawmill.
Correct.
Sure.
The popple will be going to Easton to make the OSB board with, the chipboard.
That's okay. Yep.
And then the fir and the spruce is down below. Well, that will be going to Masardis to make 2x4s and 2x6s out of.
So really, I mean, it's what you have here in a woodlot. You have different kinds of species, but when you cut it up, you split it up into different by species, and then it just goes to different markets.
Correct. And in the mills nowadays, they've got it figured pretty good. There's no waste. I mean, like the 2x4s and stuff there, the bark from the barks they use for the chipping of this here, whatever ain't taken out for lumber will be chipped up and ground up and will be used for hog fuel or whatever to make electricity at the different plants. Like Masardis, not Masardis, but Ashland, they have an electricity plant there that burns that hog fuel. That's what it's called, and all that is mill waste. So really, when it's all said and done, every bit of that tree is being used.
So really is. So there really is no waste. Just like you're, as you're cutting your tree, all the branches stay behind on the ground, decompose, and then go back into the soil. So
that's correct. And you got all the little seeds that's still at the top of them trees that's being put back into the soil. And it's not only that, but it's being spread around with the skidder and the twitches. It's being dragged out of the woods.
Mm-hmm. So now, Jody, if somebody wants your services, you know, because I mean, I can see the advantage here. First of all, for environmental impact, you do a great job. The other thing is that you probably specialize in smaller wood lots, or anything for that matter. But if they want your services, well, how do they go about getting it?
Well, you know, what we do is we're small enough so we can take care of little lots, 2, 3, 4 acre wood lots. We don't need to have 200 acres like some of these big machines do to turn around in. So, you know, and we also, you know, we don't only cut wood, but we sell firewood. We have tree length firewood for sale. We could possibly do some, you know, we could possibly do some cut and split stuff if want be. You know, we have different services to offer. You know, you can either get a hold of me right here through Dawn or through Bouchard Family Farms. You know, they know me very well. We're all close friends. You know, Paul Lozier, you know, he is the one, he's the wood buyer.
He's the wood buyer.
He's the wood buyer for me, and he does, you know, he's the, you know, I try to be the workhorse, and I try to stay out of it. I try to let him be the, you know, he's the businessman. I'm just the workhorse here.
Yeah. Well, certainly you've done well, and you're doing a real good service to people, and I really want to thank you. Thank you for your time, and I know I've delayed you on such a beautiful day. This is perfect, you know, 20, 30 degrees temperature, nice, sunny, not too much snow, easy going, and I really want to appreciate it. I appreciate it and say thank you, and I'm sure the viewers will enjoy this film because it's really a view out of the past. Yeah.
Well, Don, I really appreciate it, and thank you for you know, for doing this. I mean, I like it because I like to see you know, the people. I like to let them know what's going on, and this is how logging used to be.
This is how you're absolutely right. You know, some of the people now who are getting up in age, but they've done this all their lives, and we have many of those in the area, and I'm sure they will enjoy this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Don.
cutting up the tree in order to cut it into its length. The tree was actually suspended, making it very difficult to cut. Measuring his tree, and then he goes about cutting it into the desired length. Measuring his length, 12 foot plus 8 inches. Now to try to maximize the tree on the other end. 1 length, 2 lengths, 3 lengths and 8 inches. Another 12-foot log. So now all his trees have been cut to their desired length. Now it's time to go back and get another load. Off into the woods to go get another twitch of log. This is the way lumbering was done from the 1960s through mid-70s, before the mechanical harvesting.